That's our surprise face for videos. I did something really stupid today. Or yesterday.
Encoding overloaded. Oh! No, what's going on?
Doesn't it say that all the time?
Does it? I've never seen it. Whatever. It don't matter.
Oh, yeah, he lost his debit card.
I did.
I gave it to him and he put it somewhere he doesn't not remember.
I said, you know what? I don't want to go through this again.
Well, we're watching a hot girl stream. She's not hot to me. She's actually average.
Don't you ever say that again. She's pretty.
Okay, so we're going to have a couple of quick videos come out, and then we'll have a longer video a bit after this. Kind of wanted to finish up the NALCS rosters that we're going to break down. Echo Fox as an interesting roster compared to last year. So last year, they were slated to like be volatile, bad. They actually had one of the best years they had for competitive play. They got third in spring. They brought TSM to a close series. When they faced again, it was just really bad. They got to be at Rich Rivals. A bunch of roster moves. They had an interesting year. They made Dardoch look like the best jungler in North America. Or was he really just the best jungler in general? 200 IQ jungle plays. He's zero focused in on this stream and not paying attention to me.
Not until you stop making weird memes. I'll start listening after that.
Memes. No? No one's gonna meme me? Oh, yeah, back to the video. Okay, so Echo Fox now has a new roster of Lorelo/Solo, which somehow rhymes.
It's gonna be Lorelo.
Probably. You have Rush coming over from KT Roller Coaster.
You're clever, dude.
And Phoenix, their former mid laner.
Just leave it at that.
And now Apollo and Hakuho.
I think that
Clutch's bot lane. So, do these guys finish anywhere above like 9th?
I believe they're better than a few teams, and I could easily see them getting to 7th. And honestly, with the inconsistencies of the top teams, I could see them even getting 6th. I could see
that.
You're saying you're putting CLG at 6th when we really don't even understand how. We have no idea how they're gonna gel together. Like, I honestly could see that team not functioning at all. A lot of them are just pretty decently inconsistent on that team.
But they're decently consistently better than these guys are.
No, I wouldn't even say that. I think that Rush could 100% carry him past a bunch of games.
But is Rush good enough to do that nowadays?
I mean,
with all the changes and like just around like the changes that happened around the jungle like really hurt him on like KT Roaster.
I mean, let's be honest. He looked extremely good on KT Roaster. Not extremely good, but I mean, I feel like he would have been a starter on a few other teams. I mean, considering a lot.
He might have been better than Blank on SKT.
Honestly, yeah, I was about to say. You could say SKT. You could say a few other teams. I could honestly even put what's it called? Put my opinion down and say he could have done it for a Freak of Freaks too. I think. I mean, Spirit wasn't on point consistently, so...
He's always been inconsistent anyway, though.
I think that Rush played pretty decently, but the fact is he was stuck behind Score, and Score just is too good for him. That was just unfair for him to get in that position.
But when they gave him game ones, sometimes he lost those, too.
I mean, you can't always win. I mean, KT rarely ever won game ones, to be honest.
Let's when they won game ones, it was pretty surprising.
Well, yeah, they lost. Remember Griffin 2-0'd them almost. 3-0'd them almost.
God.
Like, let's be honest, they don't usually win these. But the thing about it is, I think that Rush played well. I think he's going to be one of the better junglers in the league.
But they have literally, so Optic has 2 of the best junglers. So Echo Fox is like, let's one up you and grab 2 of the worst top laners.
I'm going to be honest, I really am disappointed in this year because some of the best junglers in NA are stuck on the worst teams. So it's going to be like most of the good junglers in NA, essentially all these bad teams that we're thinking are just not going to be good, are going to win based solely off the fact that no other jungler in the league can compete with them. I'm like, the only team that has a competent jungler is probably Team Liquid out of the top tier teams. I think that everybody else is pretty like weak in terms of just the jungler.
Cadian's on TSM Academy.
Yeah, I mean, just like what team has a really good jungler in terms of the top teams? Smithy was inconsistent last year. Svenskeren not good right now. Like he plays good every once in a while, but he's extremely inconsistent. Meteos is on a bottom tier team.
Dardoch is also not playing, and you put him at first, and he's gonna be in Academy probably most of the time.
Nah, he's gonna come back to a team. But we have Meteos, we have Dardoch, we have Rush, all on very bottom tier teams. We have like just most of the good teams are just going to be on non-consistent.
I think most of the teams just don't want to try out name brand junglers anymore.
Well,
they want to try out new people and see how they work.
Well, this already not worked the first off. They're using some of the junglers that didn't work last year.
I mean, Wiggly
Wiggly
worked to a certain extent.
He did to a certain extent, though.
So I mean, like you could go with someone who's been a veteran who hasn't proven anything, or go with a new guy who can offer you some new potential.
I mean, let's be honest. All of the people I named recently have proven something, so that's really unfair.
Besides,
to say.
like maybe Acadian.
I mean, Acadian. I was just talking about the three: Meteos, Dardoch, and Rush. I think all three of them are. The reason why I think these teams could possibly get into a playoff position is because just the jungle competition in NA is just way too weak right now on the top side of the top half of the.
Because like if people are counting like TL, C9, TSM, and 100 Thieves to be the best teams. So like you have Onda, Svenskeren, Grig.
You really just
and
put
Smithy.
You just really just put C9 over 100 Thieves.
No. People are counting them as like the top 4 teams.
Oh,
but
14?
like yeah. So if you're counting them at the top 4 teams, like those junglers are all like either. They're really good on they're either really good or they're just like
I don't think any of them are really good. I think
they're really good at on certain days.
I think none of them have like I think Xmithy's the one exception in that group because
Svenskeren can be
Xmithy when he first came into the league. I mean when he was on CLG for the first part of it, I think he was really terrible. I think he came.
He was on Vulcan.
No, he was decent when he very first came into the league. But his first, if anybody remembers his first season on C9, I mean, what's it called on CLG, he was actually pretty bad. I think he's had pretty for most of his career though. Throughout since then, I think he's been really consistent. I think he's been one. He
was underrated at one point too.
For a little bit, I think that people started rating him properly once he came back to form. But people have to consider that he's not always been good. I think that he looked pretty poor last year. I think that was one of his worst years since the beginning of his CLG days. I don't know if I would put him above really anybody else in this group, to be honest. I think that Rush could possibly be better than him. I think that Meteos was better than him last year. I think that Dardoch was obviously better, so I think he could easily be worse than the rest. All of these top-tier teams just have weaknesses in the jungle. And they just refused to. So that's why I think that I could easily
Rush and Phoenix could carry them.
I could see them pulling off games because their synergy first off from the jungle mid, and on top of the fact, not even just that. I think the bot lane's.
But how do you cover up the weakness in top?
It
was really shown last year that if your top laner is weak, you're gonna have a really rough time.
Let's be honest. I don't think he's gonna die. I think he's just not gonna he's inconsistent with when he can carry, but sometimes he does pop off. He does. I think it's a really step up from Solo. I think there's a few junglers he's better than, but not a lot. I mean, top laners, but not a lot. It really depends.
But can Phoenix be better than the competition too? Crown, Jensen, Bjergsen, Niski, Puhi now has been really good.
I mean, I don't know. He wasn't really great his second split. His first split, he was pretty fine. But towards the end of the first split, spring split during 2018, I don't think he looked great. I think he could easily be one of the top tier mid laners. So for the most part, I don't know what to say about this team.
I think this is going to be the next clutch, just with tiny bits of. I don't know if it's better. That's the thing.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna put them.
This is literally just like clutch with probably the same top laner, a better jungler, and a side grade mid.
No, the top laner is a complete upgrade. Solo is a complete downgrade from
Lorlo.
Yes. No, not even probably. 100%.
I mean, to be fair, Solo got left on an island by his team.
Well, I mean, he's just worse than Lorlo, though. It's not fair to compare the two. Lorlo might have had some bad CL days, but he's been pretty consistent recently. I think the biggest problem is going to stem mostly from, really a lack of any substantial star. I mean, it really depends on if Lorlo... not Lorlo.
This team is Rush and
If Rush comes into form, I could easily see it happening. But I think a lot of people are over-exaggerating on how good these top-tier teams in NA are. They're really weak in terms of they have either one or two extremely weak laners. I think all of them lack a substantially good jungler. I don't think any of them have one. I mean, obviously, I think that Grig could come into form. I think the Onda could. They're really both new to the scene. I think that Xmithy's still proven that he could be a top-tier jungler in NA. but I don't really like him on the international stage. I guess that really doesn't matter in terms of
just ranking them in.
Yeah, if we're talking about national success, I don't think it really matters.
But
too
I think
much.
he's fine when it comes to that stuff. He isn't like cracking under pressure. He just he
I don't
plays
think
the
he's-
same way he does.
I
I just think that kind of style he plays is just
I didn't like him at Worlds ever. I don't think he's ever done well at Worlds, to be honest.
well like that kind
I
of
liked him.
like the style he plays at Worlds gets countered by better junglers in general.
Well, I just didn't like him at. I didn't like him at MSI when the CLG win. I haven't liked him really much. I don't like what he brings to the table. I think there's a lot of better. Like I think he's been really good at points, but I don't like what he's done recently. At the very least, I think when it comes to in terms of what he brings to NA, he's done really well. I mean, besides last year again, I'm gonna say I didn't like his last year's performance, but he's.
I thought it was because he brings consistency.
He wasn't consistent last year though. That's the problem.
But that's the thing. He had to completely change his playstyle because the team only had to function around double lift. Though.
Yeah, people like to say like a lot of people who are saying he's consistent didn't really like. He was not consistent last year. I think he really like for the most part he was still one of the better junglers.
Spring he was fine. I say spring he was consistent.
No,
Summer was not.
I think he was worse in spring than he was summer. To be honest,
I thought Summer was pretty inconsistent.
I would say I mean he didn't do consistently good in either one, but I think his spring was probably worse.
Because I think just the better junglers internationally can just beat him in general.
But this is I know we kind of got off tangent, but the reason I brought this up is because I think that Echo Fox's biggest strength is going to come from the fact that they have one of the better junglers in the league. And they can take off games just purely based off that from the top tier teams.
Can Rush do that now?
No.
Rush has to do that a lot. He has to do that like every single game, like he did on TIP to do that.
Well, I guess I can see that, but the thing about it is, I can see him doing it because there's a lot of just weaknesses in the jungler in the top lanes. I mean, the top teams. Like, there's no reason all these top tier teams couldn't have at least grabbed a better jungler. Until that happens, I can't see me discounting any of these bottom tier teams because a lot of them just beat them out in the jungle position. And I'm gonna go to mid lane next because I feel like I dwelled too much on jungle. I think that mid lane's biggest weakness is gonna be like he was pretty weak towards the end of the split of the spring. His spring split, he was on form for a very long time, and then all of a sudden he just fell off.
And I don't really know what like. I don't really know what I feel about Phoenix. I don't really know. Phoenix was good in the spring. Summer, he just collapsed.
I mean, he didn't really get to play. I think that was a big synergy issue for the most part.
Switching out DeMonte might have had a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I think their biggest question is their bot lane, actually. Are they going to be a consistent bot lane, or are they just going to get rolled over?
I'm going to say right now they've been consistent pretty much their entire career, besides the very beginning where they were terrible. I think that I'm not too worried about the bot lane. I think they're going to bring what you got last year. I don't see a lot of the teams smashing them. And honestly, in terms of synergy, they're the most synergized bot lane in the league. So I don't see them losing. I see them going even with most of them and beating the bottom tier bot lanes like Wild Turtle and JJ.
I think the lack of stars.
I think they don't
really have true stars besides like Rush.
I'm gonna say
it's gonna be the Rush show for like.
I'm fine with that, honestly. I think that could easily work because I think a lot of the teams in NA lack any form of macro.
But Rush is going to have to work with Phoenix really well, Lorlo really well.
You see, the reason that these 1v9s don't work in the top tier, like in like top tier play, is because of the fact that synergized macro will like shut down any function of a one-man show. With what I think that NA kind of lacks in terms of everybody besides maybe TL and maybe C9, is that they don't really rely on macro more. You know, I won't even give C9 that credit. I think that all of the teams in NA kind of lack any form of macro. They rely mostly on aggressive play early game and kind of try and take over the game from there. That's what we saw at Worlds.
To be fair, win lane, win game.
It shouldn't be the case, but I think since that's the case, I think that Rush himself can probably kind of counteract that playstyle, because I think he is good enough in terms of what he brings to the table to kind of be able to do that. I think that. Let me think. I think that a big portion of what's going to happen in this league is going to come from we're going to have to see whether or not any of the teams are competent enough to shut Rush down. I think TL will be able to. I'm going to be honest. TL has a competent jungler. TL has a competent everything. I think that, and they're one of the best macro-oriented teams in the league. I think that we saw.
I don't really know about that. That's the thing.
In the league? In this NA league, yes, 100%.
They only really played through double if like
That's-
what,
but
what macro is that? They're pretty much the worst version of RNG. RNG
No,
didn't
no.
have macro.
RNG did have some macro. What I'm saying is it wasn't that their playstyle and their macro were two different things. They had a pretty the reason I'm saying this is because they kind of had a purpose when they walked around the map. They didn't just like aggressively attack you in the early. Essentially, what they did was like methodically. I won't say methodically because that gives them too much credit.
Because that would be a force of the meta too. Like if making the first move is what you need to do to win.
I think it wasn't. I really think that Worlds kind of gave us a skewed version of what the actual meta was, because a lot of the teams that kind of played that passive playstyle were just terrible. Think of Samsung.
Songu Buffalo.
Yeah, like all of these teams that just played the passive playstyle weren't good at the point. So it wasn't the meta. It was more so the lack of actual counter playstyles. So we saw all these people with aggressive playstyles succeeding because there was no other counter playstyle to it. I think if we had seen some of these stronger teams kind of function well into the like an SKT, like SKT kind of tried to play that playstyle still, but they just didn't have any good players. Samsung played that playstyle but fell apart in mid lane and pretty much everywhere, honestly. Cuvée was terrible. So I think the reason I think that this like kind of function is going to work well with Echo Fox is because I think that a lot of these teams really aren't going to be able to shut down Rush. I don't think a lot of them are capable.
I think most of them are actually going to be capable. I think he's going to bring like...
Tell me...
Because Rush himself is going to bring an aggressive... They're going to give him aggressive junglers.
I don't think that they're going to be a... I still think they're probably going to be a bottom tier team, but what I'm saying is I could easily see them shooting up just purely based off of Rush Phoenix.
Like, what if they... Like, Rush is gonna play carry junglers.
Yes.
And the worst carry jungler is going to play is like Olaf.
Tell me one team that you think is competent enough to kind of play...
Well, it has to be jungler that's going to shut him down, because... You know, like,
I don't think
Sneaky's not going to lane against him.
There's no laners in jungle. It's just whoever.
You have to make sure your jungler is smarter than theirs.
His aggressive playstyle and kind of counter jungling, I think is a lot better than any of the top tier junglers in NA. I think.
But we haven't seen that from him consistently enough.
We saw that in KT. He was fine in KT. To
be fair, if we count the games he lost, he failed at that though.
He was in Korea and he was playing one of the in terms of what he failed at was most of the playoff games. I'm gonna be honest.
Aren't those like big deals though?
Yes, but he was just not. I mean, let's be honest. It was a Korean top lane. I mean, a Korean what's it called? Playoff game, and he didn't get enough time to really get a feel of the play. Like he just didn't have enough play time. Let's be honest.
Maybe with a slightly weaker league that comes out better.
I think he's gonna look really good in this league. To be honest, I think his playstyle really meshes well with what NA's able to like kind of do.
Because he's gonna play aggressive.
He is.
I don't think he can play take junglers very well.
Oh, he can. We've seen him play them. I think he plays them as such, like their aggressive tank. What's it called? Like their aggressive junglers, but like it really does work in terms of whether or not that's the meta. He doesn't need to play tank junglers because the rest of the team is gonna play support.
The coach is not even gonna give him tank junglers.
Well, I'm just saying that
the coach is the song. The song gives him tank junglers. They're gonna lose every single game.
I'm gonna put it out there right now. Like, let's think about it. Song is one of the better coaches in NA. I don't care what...
I think Song can actually do wonders with his team.
The reason why people are discrediting this team is because of, like, Lorelo in the bot lane.
Lorelo in the bot lane kind of really do weigh it down.
But
if we're at the bot lane, Apollo and Hakuo, like... See, the issue with them is that they could beat people that were better than them.
That's not an issue.
But that's the thing, like... If they're weaker in general, they're gonna lose more often than they're gonna win.
You know, I'm gonna say that they didn't actually lose more often than they did. I think they did well for the most part. They lost every once in a while, I give them that, but for the most part, I think they won more often than they didn't. I think,
or they at least went even.
Went even, I'll say, not won, but they're able to shut down the bottom tier lanes. I think they can't compete with Double F for the most part, especially their Double F core JJ lane, and I don't think they're gonna compete with Aphromoo. But I think a lot of the better, like, decent laners, I don't think they're going to get shut down by. They're not going to get shut down by Zeyzal Sneaky. It's just not going to happen.
I think they'll get shut down by them in terms of team fighting.
I don't even know about that. Like, you can't shut somebody down if it's team fighting.
Well, you mean diving them, stuff like that. Like diving
if Sneaky dives, he's going to die. I'm going to put that out there. If Sneaky decides, I'm going to dive Apollo.
You have, because, like, there's a lot of teams that like to get ahead by diving bot lane.
Well, yes. I'm gonna put this out. I do think that I don't think they're good on the spot decisions. I think that the coaches kind of give them a direction, and once that direction kind of falls apart, I don't think they're good at coming back from that. The coaches essentially tell them this is how the game's going to play. And if it pulls off well, I think they're capable of keeping the game in the direction that they want to keep going. But if the game kind of goes off on a tangent where it doesn't go to where the coaches kind of gave them direction to, I feel like they don't know what to do after that.
Because I think, like, at where Kespa Cup and MSI, not Kespa Cup and what's the one in the LPL?
The Demacia.
Like, it's going to be a bot lane focused meta. You have, oh gosh. This girl sucks at streaming. He's just watching her loot. She is.
Leave her alone. She's pretty.
She's not pretty. She is worse than Pokimane.
She's not.
Gosh.
Okay, whatever.
I just think, like, they're lacking star. It's not that lacking star power matters. Lacking star power matters in games that matter. Like, are they gonna be able to beat TSM? Are they gonna be able to beat Cloud9 at all? Are they gonna be able to beat 100 Thieves? They theoretically could beat them, and I could also theoretically grow wings and fly outside. That's not gonna happen. I could also theoretically get a girlfriend and poof her up right here.
See, the reason why I don't want to say any of these things is because I think.
But we've seen teams that are on the lower tier spectrum do well at certain points.
I'm gonna be honest.
Be one of those lower tier teams that do well and kind of sneak into playoffs.
I don't think that Cloud9 is competent, nor is TSM competent enough to consistently beat the bottom tier teams. I think they're gonna lose games to them. I think that's gonna kind of be, if that happens, I think that could be the turning point. What puts Echo Fox into the into the playoffs.
I mean, it could happen. Teams can play bad on certain days that give them a chance to.
I think it's more so they're gonna misplay against Rush, who is honestly good enough to take advantages. And if he gets far enough ahead, he's just going to take over the game. I think that Rush, Dardoch, and Meteos are going to be kind of what brings these bottom-tier teams into competence. You're going to see a lot of these teams fighting for positions in the playoffs because of these players.
I think Echo Fox is the dark horse to come into... Maybe...
I don't think...
dark horse to be in the playoffs?
I don't think they're going to make Worlds. I'm going to put that out there.
That's the problem. They're not even probably better than Clutch Gaming.
I don't think they are. I think what's going to happen is they're going to function solely off that, and once the teams figure them out, they're going to lose it.
They're going to be they're a mid jungle focused team.
Yeah.
They're good. Rush is not ganking for bot. There's going to be times in which he will gank for bot.
I think he'll gank for bot. I think
that he'll most likely not gank for bot if he can avoid it.
I really think you're over exaggerating how bad they are, Joseph.
No, like I think he won't gank for them as much because if he knows that they're not going to lose it, like in lane in general, that Elise is terrible. I just watched. Then he doesn't need to go. You don't, as a jungler, if you know that lane is doing well, you don't need to visit it in general.
Like I think people exaggerate. Like there's junglers are probably the most impactful roles inside of the game early game. Them and support. I think those are the two most impactful early game roles, and I think that is gonna kind of define their playstyle because a lot of these teams have either weak junglers or weak support or both. And I think that Rush is going to be confident enough to take advantage of that against a lot of these top tier teams like Cloud9, TSM.
That's the problem. Just Rush. That's the thing. Rush has to be able to win the game for them.
He's not going to have to.
Other teams have other stronger players than this team.
See, what happens essentially is if a jungler takes over the game, it's not that he's getting a bunch of kills. It's that he's getting successful ganks off, correct? So if he gets successful ganks,
it could be him on the actual carry jungler too.
No, I would say it's what's going to be happening is he's going to get you can't get ahead as a jungler just purely based off of counter jungling unless they do a terrible job. What's going to be happening is he's going to get successful ganks off, which is going to shut down some of the stronger laners, which is going to make their weaker laners kind of thrive because even if you're worse than the player you're playing against, if it's not a gigantic substantial like difference in skill, I think they're going to be able to competently play against these people. Because the lead is going to get shut down a little bit. I think that in that aspect, I think that Echo Fox is capable. I think they're definitely capable of taking games off of anybody. What are you texting, dude? I saw it on the screen.
That's my hairdresser.
What did she say?
She said, okay. Setting girl appointments. Hey, you should talk to some girls. It's a thing guys do.
I like how he gets his hair done at a salon and tells me about stuff. He's like, oh yeah. Girls. By the way, I talk to girls.
And men.
What's up?
XD.
But so weird, man.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for that. I don't see in a vacuum. He could grow facial hair and have a girlfriend.
I mean, I do grow I shave. I swear.
We could also win the lottery, and
it's a guaranteed fact. If you buy 5 lottery tickets, you have a 1 out of 5 chance to win. So you eventually win.
It's like betting on Echo Fox is like betting on a lottery. Yes, in hindsight, Rush could do all these things to these players. or they could be just like the next Golden Guardians. That's kind of what they're at. They're either going to be a dark horse that can beat top teams, but their weaknesses show in every other lane, probably except like jungle.
I think really the only focal point of this video is to kind of point out things that could happen. We
That's
don't
the thing
have to
with
say
them.
what's gonna happen. We have to say what can
See, that's
happen.
the thing with breaking them down.
That's all we can do. We can't
They're-
predict the future, dude.
The bot lane is consistent.
Consistent. The
Top
junglers.
laner is like 8th to 10th place.
I would say 7th.
You have a jungler who is probably going to be top 3 at his role. I wouldn't say number 1 because the team is going to obviously that kind of thing kind of functions too. Phoenix is going to be an upper middle of the pack mid laner. Those teams are usually, by every single league, when you see a team like that from like LPL, LCK, EU, those teams are usually like 7th or 8th.
Yeah, but that's not NA. NA does not.
That's even worse for NA.
No,
They're
it's
like
even-
9th then.
That's even better for NA because NA's not competent.
They
That's
could
what
be in
I'm
the
saying.
playoffs then. Who knows?
What I'm saying is, I don't think these top of the line teams are capable of shutting
They're just
down
like another
these.
version of Rocat from last year.
They are not anything close to that.
That's the problem. Rocat was like 6th, 7th place.
What I'm saying is, I think they're competent to make it. I mean, they can make it the playoffs. I think that's possible.
I mean,
If
they
can squeak-
They can squeak in.
that's what I'm saying, it's possible. I think they can make it to playoffs if these things that we said can happen, do happen. If these things don't happen, they're gonna lose based purely off of lane pressure.
If these things don't happen, you're not winning the lottery.
Yeah,
or
they're not
growing
winning
facial hair.
anything. Shut your mouth. I grow facial hair. See?
God, I'm cute and chiseled.
Oh, I bet. I have facial hair though. I swear.
I think you're lying to me.
But that's pretty much it. I think that there's really not much we can say because this is not on paper a strong team.
On paper, these are like pretty much all downgraded.
But
all downgraded. except for,
Realistically,
like,
it's
mid.
very possible that this team can do anything. I mean, there's a lot of inconsistencies through a lot of these lanes, so we'll see what happens.
See you guys later. Dab Nation.
Oh my god.